please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Forget about what happens in Phulpur or Gorakhpur, forget about what happens in Karnataka, what may happen in Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, and of course what is likely to happen in 2019. You believe that in that sense, the Indian economy is more or less decoupled from its politics, and we will continue to traverse this 7% kind of growth rate.
Yeah, I don't know about I'm not going to stick myself to 7% because I think if the global economy has a downturn, there's no way that you get to 7%.
Sure.
And I think that there's a lot which can be done, but I think that that's just the reality of India, which is that we all have a long laundry list of what needs to be done. Some of it gets done, but it's more in the form of sort of incremental changes. When a new government comes to power, they all carry out some incremental changes, and by the time the government ends its term, it gets pretty much into sort of, quite complacent and much more about winning the election through populist schemes. That's just the pattern as far as India is concerned. But I think that there's a bigger debate to be had here at some point in time, which is that why in this country is there such sort of skepticism also about the politics? One of the recent researches that we have done basically shows us this, that 2 out of 3 elections in India are lost. This is the mirror image of, let's say, the United States.
Okay.
So the United States, we did a similar exercise looking at the presidential elections and looking at the state governor elections. And there are more than 500 such instances since 1977, in the US as well, and India. And what we found here was that in the US, the opposite happens, which is the incumbent ends up winning the election. And in India,
so
the opposite happens.
There's no anti-incumbency there.
Exactly. I mean, it's very interesting. This term anti-incumbency has been coined in India. So, I'm serious about it. When I try and use the word anti-incumbency in any of my columns, which I write internationally, the editors, whether it's the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal, have come back to me and said, what is this term? And I've had to I think it's a very natural term. But in fact, whoever deserves credit for it, anti-incumbent is the word which has been exclusively coined in India.
And it's an Indian phenomenon.
It's an Indian phenomenon. Because even if you look at the other parliamentary democracies, such as the UK, in the last 2 elections in the UK, 80% of the sitting members of parliament got re-elected. 80%. So I think that this is a very...
So what makes it, why is this the case here in India then?
Exactly, and I think that this is where there's not been enough thought given to it. In terms of that, why is it that in India, the default option is throw the bums out, right? So like in India, we keep thinking that what will the politicians do? What will the government do, and what is the Congress party doing, etc. It almost doesn't matter. The default option for any party is to lose. Of course, there are 1/3 which win, but it's very interesting that we try to figure out, is there any common factor as to why these 1/3 of these people who win elections, why do they win elections? And is there a common factor as to why these 2/3 of people who lose elections, why they lose elections? I think it's easier to come up with why the 2/3 lose elections based on my travels. And I think the single biggest reason why those 2/3 of politicians in India lose power is because the state is broken. And I really believe this, which is that the average person sort of interfaces with, let's say, the local police person, the local tehsildar, the municipality person, the local bureaucrat.
Yeah.
And his or her interface with that is extremely harsh. It's a very tough experience. So even if the chief minister or the prime minister may be well-intentioned, for the daily person dealing with this grind, it is a very, very tough experience. And you can see it in terms of it's oppressive, it is corrupt, and also it is understaffed in terms of the judiciary and things. So it's a very hard experience. And so the average person basically every 5 years just wants change because he or she perceives that not much has changed
for me.
Not much has changed for them on the ground. And of course, there are some other peculiarities which make the default option in this country to just throw the bums out. One of them is that it takes very small vote shares, as you know. 4-5% vote swings, and you get massive swings as far as seats are concerned. The other sort of reason, I think, is also because of the fact that the political funding in this country is all done privately. And so winning and like elections has almost become like a business, which is that you need to spend money to win it. And then when you win it, you want to try and recover the money.
Yes.
And it's very tempting not to keep a part of it, right? In terms of as far as the maths is concerned. So the allegations of corruption are very easy to stick as far as people are concerned. But I think that this for me is a very fascinating point, that why is there not more, that why are politicians not thinking more about why do they keep losing elections? It's such a tough country to win elections. And whether it's US or UK, the other mature democracies, there the default option is that the politician gets re-elected.